The Sergio Perez replacement wars have officially begun. The Mexican's poor performances have initiated talk of him being sacked from Red Bull. Pundits, former drivers, and even current drivers have their say on the matter. Plenty of choices are being thrown Red Bull's way, but which driver will they go with? Let's take a look at their list of options in today's video. Ex-Formula One racer Johnny Herbert reckons Sergio Perez's position at Red Bull is on shaky ground due to his inability to match up to his teammate. With Max Verstappen securing victory in 6 out of the 8 races this season, Perez managed to clinch the remaining 2. However, in the recent Canada Grand Prix, Verstappen emerged triumphant, while Perez struggled to make progress, finishing in P6 after starting from P12. This performance gap is putting Perez's Red Bull seat in jeopardy, according to Herbert. Herbert believes that although Perez displayed potential earlier in the season, there came a time when he couldn't deliver the expected results. When asked about Perez's security in his Red Bull seat, Herbert told OLBG about his interpretation of the situation, saying, "There is always going to be favoritism in a team because you know one of them will deliver and deliver consistently. As much as Sergio showed in the early parts of the season that he was more than capable of mixing it with Max, there was then a point that he wasn't. Like Schumacher, Senna, Mansell, Hakkinen, they are always able to get the best out of their equipment every weekend." While Herbert expressed his concerns about Perez's position being at risk, he did acknowledge that the Mexican driver serves as a formidable second driver alongside the Dutchman. He mentioned, "In real terms, I would say he is under threat, but he is a very good number 2. When he's on his game, he can win. Even then, he would be second or third, and that will still enable Red Bull to win the Constructors' Championship, which is obviously very important." Herbert also speculated about potential replacements who could bring more competitiveness to challenge Verstappen, considering other drivers on the paddock that show potential to drive the RB19 better than Perez. He suggested, "If you want more competitiveness to Verstappen, you either need Russell or Hamilton or Charles Leclerc or maybe Lando Norris. Lando Norris has a long-term contract with McLaren, and I don't know if he has a performance clause in it to move from McLaren. I think it would be a good move for Red Bull. It would add positivity to the team, and I think he's more than capable of being able to deal with that position." Now, you might be thinking, don't they already have a replacement driver in Daniel Ricciardo? Well, according to Dutch racing driver Tom Coronel, Daniel Ricciardo is unlikely to be considered as a replacement for Sergio Perez at Red Bull. Instead, Coronel believes that Alex Albon is the ideal candidate to partner with Max Verstappen. While Ricciardo is patiently waiting for a chance to prove himself alongside Verstappen, Coronel holds the opinion that the Australian driver may not be suitable for the role. On the other hand, Albon has been making a positive impression at Williams this year, prompting Coronel to advocate for the 27-year-old to be given the opportunity to return to Red Bull. While speaking on the Racing News 365 podcast, he said, "And we always see that at Red Bull, Dr. Helmut Marko says this is him and plunges them right into the deep end. That's actually what he does, and then it's to see if they float. That just hardly ever happens. Gasly is broken, Ricciardo has disappeared with his tail between his legs. Albon could still give you a chance because at least he has the experience now. There is peace in that man, so I would really like to see him in a top team again, because he does it at times that it must happen." Albon's entry into the Formula One scene in 2019 was marked by a mid-season promotion to Red Bull. Although he showed promise and achieved notable results, Red Bull made the decision to replace him with Perez for the 2021 season. Consequently, Albon found himself without a seat for that year, but eventually secured a spot on the grid with Williams. Since joining with Williams, he has delivered some noteworthy performances, including his recent standout result at the Canadian Grand Prix, where he secured a 7th place finish, marking his best achievement in a Williams car so far. If Albon driving again for Red Bull isn't your cup of tea, you might want to listen to what Peter Windsor has to say. The F1 journalist and former team manager thinks that Nico Hulkenberg would be the optimal choice to replace Sergio Perez at Red Bull. While the names mentioned earlier have been considered as potential replacements, Windsor contends that Hulkenberg would be the most suitable candidate for the role. In a video uploaded to his YouTube channel, Windsor extensively analysed the situation and provided his insights. He said, Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull struggled in Q1, struggled in Q2, couldn't get temperatures right on the slick or on the intermediate, always seemed to be in traffic at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that was the difference. You could say, why didn't Red Bull bring Sergio Perez into that? Well, there are two sides of the garage at Red Bull, as we know, going back to the Mark Webber-Sebastian Vettel days, and it's nothing to do with wanting to favour Max or favour Sergio Perez. It's how to get the best from both groups in the garage, and on this occasion, Sergio Perez just couldn't get the tyres to work. Pretty much as we saw in Melbourne and then in qualifying in the Spanish Grand Prix. So a very disappointing moment for Red Bull with that performance again. Hulkenberg's qualifying performance ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix was remarkable, securing the second fastest time by the end of the session. However, due to a 3-place grid penalty for exceeding the speed limit under the red flag, the Haas driver started the race from 5th position. Windsor went on to further elaborate on the topic, saying, "You've got to think, when they look at the times, do they think, well, why aren't we running Nico Hulkenberg in the other car? Talk about the perfect number 2 to Max Verstappen. He wouldn't want to stay number 2, of course. Great job again by Nico." How many times have we seen him go well in these semi-wet conditions? Going right back to that pole he had in Brazil for Williams. Just a brilliant drive right out of the box. A little bit like Max, straight out and doing that lap time at the beginning of Q3. And just to get through from Q2 was a major achievement. His teammate, Kevin Magnussen, wasn't able to do that. A driver that has been subtle yet vocal about his desire to drive for Christian Horner is Alpine racer Esteban Ocon. He has called out Max Verstappen after suggesting to the Dutchman that he would have a strong chance of competing for the Formula One world title if he took over Sergio Perez's seat at Red Bull. Ocon's comment highlights the potential impact Verstappen could have in the championship if given a different teammate. Having previously been teammates with Perez at Force India, Ocon made the transition to his current team, then known as Renault, in 2020. With 119 race starts under his belt, Ocon secured his first and only race victory in Hungary 2 years ago. Despite not having achieved a ranking higher than 8th in the Drivers' Championship, the 26-year-old remains confident in his ability to challenge Verstappen. Ocon expressed his belief in an interview with DAZN when he said, "Sure, I see myself fighting with Verstappen, fighting for a world championship if we had the same car. Now, Max is doing an incredible job. He is dominating with Red Bull. But I don't care which driver it was. I want to fight for the championship. I have always believed in myself. We have a long road ahead of us, but my goal is to be world champion, nothing more." Ocon recently signed a contract extension with Alpine, which keeps him with the team until the conclusion of the 2024 season. Despite currently holding the 9th position in the F1 standings, he managed to secure a podium finish by claiming 3rd place in Monaco last month. Interestingly, Ocon has not completely ruled out the possibility of teaming up with Verstappen in the future, as he has chosen not to commit his long-term future to his current team. He added, "I don't know what the future holds. At the moment, I feel very good in Alpine. I feel we are progressing and I have full confidence. But in F1, you never know the future. I know the sacrifices I've made and everything I've had to go through to be where I am. But this is just the beginning." In a way, I've always been the leader of the team. I have always led my team forward by saying what I need, when we can do it, if we can manufacture this piece, and always pushing me part of the team to do it. It sure looks like Esteban Ocon carries a lot of confidence in his racing abilities. But among the drivers mentioned, who do you think is the ideal Sergio Perez replacement? Tell us who and why in the comment section down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.